Shonen Jump is one of the most popular weekly shonen magazines, and from what I know, the only shonen magazine sold and marketed outside of Japan. One of the things that keeps Weekly Shonen Jump running so smoothly and fresh is new stories, artists, and ideas. So, Jump has a new series debut every now and then. This is because they have a certain thing that started up in 2014, which was called the Shonen Jump Jumpstart Initiative, which is a system where Shonen Jump will test run a few series with the readers, and if they get a strong enough positive reaction and people request it enough, they will pick it up for serialization. This has allowed many series to actually have a chance to make an impact in the world, such as Dr. Stone, Black Clover, and Promised Neverland. Those were all jump starts, and from what I can understand and what I've read, about half of the series currently running in Shonen Jump are from Jumpstart successes. And that's why I've come here to ask you right now to help get a series that is in Jumpstart picked up for serialization. And the series I'm talking about is, of course, Noah's Notes. Noah's Notes is a 2018 Jumpstart passion project made by Hiroto Ikezawa, the creator of Kimidori, Kagarugan, and Mononofu. Now, Ikezawa isn't exactly new to manga as a whole, as he did work with a few people in the past, but he is relatively recent compared to others, given that he got his solo start in 2011. Hiroto also found himself working as an assistant for Oda of One Piece fame, and he's picked up a few tricks from him along the way, but we'll get into that later. Now, Hiroto hasn't exactly found any major successes through his work, but none of his previous work have been too negatively received either. A lot of them ranging between 7.0 to 7.5 on websites like Mal, though I'm hoping that Noah's Notes will be different. So to explain why you should be reading this, I'm gonna have to go into brief detail over the first chapter of the story. But I won't tell you absolutely every detail, as I want you to read it for yourself. But I also probably am not gonna be able to avoid spoilers. So, if you want to read it before I talk about it, well, the first chapter is available for free on Viz's website, and I will include a link to it below in the description, and the second chapter is literally behind a $1 paywall. Come the fuck on, people. It's literally free in $1. Get to reading it. Literally no excuse. So the story introduces us to our protagonist, Mirai Kotobuki, a Garu high school slacker with an extreme disinterest in schoolwork, but especially history. She only is shown to have a single goal in life later in the chapter, then that is to get married and have a family. So it is established right away that Mirai doesn't really care a lot about the past, but she is very dead set and focused on the future, as it is a way of creating a relatively blank character for the audience to use as a surrogate for the story, as she is just a simple-minded high schooler. But Ikezawa doesn't just leave her like that. He gives her small personality quirks like pun making and her high energetic Garu attitude. This allows us, the audience, to both learn things through Mirai, as we, the audience, are as new to the twists and turns of the world as Mirai is, but we also feel like she has a place or a role in the story versus some other characters who are just absolute blank slates, like most light novel protagonists. It also fits that our story is being told from the perspective of her as well, given that we know that she learned something along the way, and also her name literally means long-lived future, or a long-living future. So her focus on the future is based on her name, but also in the fact that the story talks about the danger that the future is in. So her telling us the story from that future gives us the idea that they're possibly successful. But we'll get more into that later, because our story is just beginning. But the events actually don't really get rolling until Mirai discovers a fossil on her walk home from school. As she was following a cat because she thought it was injured, she ended up in a construction site where she noticed a weird rock with something shiny in it. She picks it up and takes a picture of it, and without even thinking, she uploads it to her Twitter, and then goes about the rest of her day, which is honestly a very realistic and grounded event to happen in this story. In fact, it's these first few pages that really set us up with a very normal, regular type of life that a average high school girl might have, and that sets us up for the crazy fun adventure coming later in the chapter. Speaking of those crazy events, the next day, while sitting through her boring history class, a helicopter with a man hanging from it starts heading towards her school. This weird man then jumps through the window, holding a gun, grabs Mirai, and fires into the ceiling, causing everyone to flee in panic, and then his assistant apologizes for his rude introduction, and tells Mirai that the object that she found is actually a fossil. And this is where we get the first introduction to the weirdness of this story, and what makes it so interesting, because the fossil is actually a fossilized object from 10,000 years ago, while also being an object from the future, which is the first big reveal that Noah Notes is going to introduce to the series, which I think is one of the most unique and interesting approaches to time travel, and had me hooked from the very moment I read it. Well, that wasn't the only thing that got me hooked.
Get up to rock, get up to burn, stand with the pride, ever feel your desire.
God, I can't express how much I love the entirety of Professor Noah's character. He's a professor of archaeology who is obsessed with his research and loves his history. So much so that when he gets so passionate, he has a specific thing that he does where he just takes off his glasses and super examines the object by himself. There's just such small little quirks about him that make him perfect, and possibly one of my favorite characters I've read in a while. He also claims to be the best at traveling around the world and solving historical mysteries. And overall, Noah is just a personification of the over-glorified fictional archaeologist. And now, yes, he isn't the most original character because he's Indiana Jones, he's Nathan Drake, he's Professor Layton, but it's just the aspect of taking all these things and personifying them into one character that makes him just so fucking interesting that I love him. And it makes him the perfect mentor figure for our protagonist, who has expressed in the past that she doesn't care about history. And he is the exact opposite. He is someone who absolutely loves history. And it also expresses the main message of the series so far, that the most cool character is the person who views history as humanity's greatest weapon and power, and it's that we need to learn from the decades in the past to improve our future. He's the figure in Mirai's life that teaches her the lesson that she needs to learn. And with that out of the way, I can actually talk about how well these two actually work off of each other, both design-wise and personality-wise. First, of course, you have the design of Mirai and Noah being the polar opposites of each other. Mirai is, of course, dressed as a student, showing us that she will be the one learning new things throughout the series, but she's also dressed with an open chest for sexual appeal, and with her pink pigtails, it also goes to show that she doesn't fall into the norms of the regular student body. This clashes with Professor Noah's scholarly and teacher-like design, with his glasses, sharp edges, and tie, along with his business attire, which helps us view Noah as more of an intellectual than her, and possibly more adult. Though, when they actually interact and their personalities collide, we learn that Mirai, even though is the one who is younger and designed more outlandishly, is actually the more normal of the two. Like, these two play off each other so well, it even goes so far as their colors and accessories. The bright pink of Mirai's hair versus the pale white of Professor Noah's, or the improper school uniform versus Noah's sharp and bright jacket and dress shirt. Or you even have the heart earrings of Mirai versus Professor Noah's glasses. One of these is designed for purely fashion, the other one's designed for purely function. And they're a pair that just complete each other, and it's so fantastic. I just love these two characters. You see, their conflicting personalities actually helps drive the story forward, as Noah cares so much about history and what makes it so great that when Mirai badmouths history, he kidnaps her and takes her on an excavation just to teach her how wonderful and useful history is to the everyday person. And along with this, Mirai is promised 3 billion yen as a reward for the fossil that she found. So she has a reasonable reason not to resist Noah and goes along with him anyways. And it is at this excavation that we take the story completely over the edge of weirdness and mystery, as the fossil that was from the future that Mirai found is actually a key that went to a lockbox discovered 10 years ago. When her and the professor open it, doors shut behind them, and it is revealed that the lockbox went to an elevator control that was originally at the very top of a skyscraper, and they proceed to the bottom floor of an underground city. Though the strangeness doesn't end there. The underground city actually looks as modern, if not more modern, than the city they just left above, give or take some debris and rubble. This is because the ruins of the city above is actually the city of Minata Mirai from 100,000 years ago. And this is where the professor actually introduces us to the major arcing plot of this entire series, which is humanity's first collapse, or as Professor Noah calls it, his loop theory. And as it goes, humanity existed 100,000 years ago, and they had the exact same history as we do today. Same people, buildings, everything. Though suddenly, in the years 2022 AD, all human life vanished. No signs of war, plague, or any other signs of complete annihilation that we know today is a possibility. Now, if Professor Noah's loop theory is correct, that means that all of history is doomed to repeat itself, meaning that all humanity will disappear in 4 years, as the series takes place in 2018. This revelation gives our main character, Mirai, not only a strong motivation to continue working with the professor, as she wants to secure a future for herself, but also a finite timeline and a major goal for the series going forward, which allows us to avoid the never-ending problem that some Shonen Jump series have had. And if the final panel of the chapter is correct, it would appear that it is set in the future of 2022, and it is also left ambiguous if all humanity survived or not. As we do see the same destruction from the ruins of the underground city, we also see the existence of Mirai, giving us hope that the two succeeded in saving the world, as she is recounting the story of Professor Noah and his Noah notes. I feel like this is the perfect hook chapter, something that gets people just really invested, with a lot of strong moments and characters, and the chapter that follows afterwards is just as good. I honestly feel like Haruta is sitting on something amazing here. Like, I want you guys to read this. I want it to go somewhere. I want it to become a reality, because not only is this a very strong premise, which allows the writer to have freedom in his writing, but also appears like he has a grander message to it, but the setting itself is so interesting because it's like one of the most unique uses of time travel I've seen since Steins Gate. And we also, of course, know that the writer behind it is good. He's had some semi-successes in the past, none of them have been major, but this could be his major hit. This could be his One Piece. And honestly, it'd be great to see, like, someone who worked under the guy who created the most influential series in the world rise up and create his own major series. In fact, you can actually see a little bit of Oda in his work, but I'm not personally familiar with Oda enough to really notice this. I noticed this through a friend who I asked to explain it to me. And so here's Mr. Donut the Donut explaining where the Oda is in Noah's notes.
How's it going, everybody? I am Donut. You don't know me and I don't know you, but Medi is too much of a yellow-bellied coward to do this himself, so I'm here to do it for him. Let's talk about Oda and his relevance to Noah's Notes. Now, the author for Noah's Notes, Haruta Ekizawa, used to be an assistant for Oda, the author of One Piece, the literal #1 best-selling manga in the entire world. And Medi wants me to tell you the similarities in the art style between One Piece and Noah's Notes. And I'm here to tell you there's actually not a whole lot of similarities in the art between One Piece and Noah's Notes. It's been quite a while since he was his assistant, and he's been able to change his style over time. It's not much like Hiro Mashima, the artist for Fairy Tail, which his style looks still, or at least while it was running, exactly like One Piece's style. He really did not change in any way, just is the exact same. But Noah's Notes is adopting his own style. He's had plenty of other series over the years, and he's got his own thing going on. But there is one similarity here which I think is interesting to note, because I haven't seen really many other series do this, if at all. And that is transitional panels. A lot of series do these in different ways. One way that Oda does it, that this guy does it as well, Haruta, is taking a panel and chopping it smaller and smaller as you move into a scene or move away from a scene. Depending on, chopping it up on the left-hand side if you're moving away, chopping it up on the right-hand side if you're moving towards a scene. Here on a page, if Medi is doing his job and showing on screen, we can see the cornerstone that our main girl is looking at here, and you can see off on the left-hand side the panel being cut in two, with a very tiny sliver there on the left. And it almost looks like that is a panel from another page just being left over. He drew too much of it, so it got cut by this page, but that's not the case. You can see it's still connected to the cornerstone there. It is all one panel, just cut up smaller. And a better example is on the very next page, after we're moving away from that and cutting into a different scene, moving a little bit in time. We see a panel here, with it being cut into 3 panels. A very, 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 very skinny panel, a slightly larger one, and the size of the actual panel there. There's not really a clear way. It's just moving into another scene, and that's a good way to show that by doing it differently, right? The panel is slowly getting bigger until it becomes the whole scene in a way. But that's really one of the only similarities in the art style between the two. There really isn't much of a similarity besides that. In the plot of the series, the whole setting of the series, moving across the entire world to find something, to discover something, that's and the very Western feel of it in general, very inspired by One Piece. But overall in the art, there's not a whole lot of similarities, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I think it shows that the artist knows what he's doing and is willing to move away and not use that as a crutch.
Subscribe to my channel.
So, how do we help the series continue? Which is one of the most important things about this, and I hope anyone who's actually watched all the way through this actually does this, so please listen to me now. there's something called the Shonen Jump Weekly Survey, and this is available to everyone. You don't need to have a Shonen Jump membership to do this. You just need to go through and quickly fill it out. Please do this. I'll even explain to you how you do it. All right, so it's very basic. Give them the information that you need. It's nothing too personal. And then you get to the top 4 chapters of the week. Here is the important part. You take the chapters that you enjoyed from that week's jump. I took like My Hero Academia. I heard Dr. Stone was good. But I put Noah's Notes at the very top because it's the first 4 that matter. They're the most important ones. So by placing Noah's Notes in your favorites, I think you can just place that one by itself. But by placing that in your favorite chapters of the week, you tell Shonen Jump and Viz to continue to translate and serialize this series. This is very important because you only have this week to do it, and I'm hoping that people before this also help. I'm hoping that this video at least goes out there and gets at least a few people to go out and read it, and possibly tell Viz to keep it going. Tell Shonen Jump to keep it going, because I feel like this could be the next big series. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you want me to talk more about Noah's Notes in the future, I mean, there's still more I want to dig into because there's a lot in this series, even from these first fucking 2 chapters. There's a 3rd one coming out in the next few days. So I'd love to talk about it more. And I hope that it gets picked up so I can keep talking about it. But I'll hold that for a future video. And if you want to help support me make future videos in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MannyNotTheBadGuy. But don't go give money to that. Go buy a fucking Shonen Jump subscription right now and fucking read Noah's Notes. Thank you. Fill out the fucking weekly survey and have a lovely day.